Hello, and thank you for tuning into the channel. This is my YouTube channel, my company's YouTube channel, Compliance Prep. Right now we're going through a rebranding with the names and things of that nature. So just wanted to kind of get started. Today we're going to talk about SARS, okay? Suspicious Activity Reports. Talk about some basics of it. Talk about what are different parts of it, what's needed in the SAR, and things to keep in mind, okay? As well as when you're trying to apply for a position that requires drafting SARs, things that you should know for the interview to impress the hiring manager, okay? But before that, make sure you guys, if you haven't subscribed below to the YouTube channel, and also sign up for the email list, because you're going to get a lot of information that we're going to send to the email list that will not be posted on YouTube, so that way you don't miss out or get left out with anything, all right? All right, great. So let's talk about SARS. So again, SARS stands for Suspicious Activity Reports. Now, these are filed with FinCEN, right? So now you have these reports. They'll file, and now I say FinCEN because I'm in the U.S. So in the U.S., our financial intelligence unit is FinCEN. In different countries, it's different business or different bodies that regulate your financial industry. All right, so when I refer to it, it's just the U.S. A lot of times these rules apply not only in the U.S., but in other countries as well. All right, now, when you're drafting a SAR, when you're thinking about a SAR, the SAR has a lot of components. And first the question is, how do you deem something SAR worthy, right? What is SAR worthy? Now, that's always going to get, a lot of that input is going to come from the financial institution that you're working for. So they may say, they'll have parameters as to what they determine that is SAR worthy, or at least should be escalated for further review. Okay, so some things you want to think about is the amounts, right? The amount of transactions, not only the quantity but also the value of the transactions, and that value in light of the country that it's being transacted, or these transactions are coming from, especially in wire transactions. So if you have 100,000 in the U.S. and 100,000 in Mexico, oftentimes 100,000 in Mexico is going to be, not all the time would be considered higher risk than in the U.S. because Mexico is a high risk jurisdiction, all other things being equal, right? So when you're looking at what's SAR worthy, you want to really pay attention to the location of the transactions, and not only the location of the transactions. You want to look at the location of either the individual business that's on one side of the transaction, and then the bank that they're using as well. Because if you're in Mexico, but the bank that you're using to send the money from is in Panama, or if the business or is their address in Mexico, but their bank is in Panama, that's a huge red flag. Why? Because why would there's multiple banks in Mexico. Why not use a Mexican bank to send the money? But using a bank of Panama, one is an inconsistent address, so that's a red flag. Something that you wouldn't include in your SAR. And on top of that, Panama is a well-known offshore and financial secrecy haven, right? So you're looking at those two factors, and that can be decided just from looking at the transactions and the addresses. All right, so when you're writing SARs, you want to really pay attention to a lot of the details of the transaction. That's what's going to give you a lot of information. But once you have that information, you also want to look at the research that was conducted on the entities. If you have a person who was convicted of drug smuggling and that person was correctly identified as your entity, then right there, that usually in and of itself is enough to write a SAR, okay? Because that means they're drug smuggling. They need to have some way to move the money. They're using the bank. Chances are they may be using that bank to smuggle drug proceeds. Or even if they own a company and that company has an account, but if that person is the owner of the company, they could be using the company as a front to launder the money, okay? Another key that's really important, and I really want you guys to pay attention to, is making sure that the research that you're basing your SAR off of actually applies to the entities that you're researching. So for example, let's say we had a Miguel Hernandez in Colombia that was convicted of drug smuggling. Okay, but your entity was Miguel Hernandez in Wyoming, USA. Okay, if you go and you use the research from the Colombian Miguel Hernandez for the Wyoming one, yes, the Miguel Hernandez in Colombia should have a SAR written on him if he was the subject of the investigation. You want to make sure that when you're conducting these investigations, that the individuals that you're mentioning the individuals that the research that you're using applies to your individual. I've seen it happen many times. I've reviewed many people or many investigators' case notes and realized they had the complete wrong entity. They may have just seen what came up first and went with that. So make sure that you're doing the correct, full, and proper research. Okay. Now, when it comes to drafting SARs, sadly, when I was starting, there was no place to go to actually learn how to draft a SAR. I looked online. I had some ways, but there weren't really any ways teaching people. So what my company did was we decided to create a course to teach people how to draft, hypothetical SARs. This is the reason behind this is that way you can get the practice of writing a SAR, really getting used to sitting there, drafting, seeing what's required, using the research, using the transactions. All of this is what's going to be important for you to have, because if you have this information, it'll allow for you to write the SAR much more effectively. And so right now, and depending on when you're watching this, the course may be available, it may not be, because we closed enrollment down at different times of the year just to make sure we can give enough attention to the people who are in the course. So if you're interested, and there's a link down below, you can sign up, you can click there to check out the course, and if it is available, I recommend you sign up immediately, because there's no telling when we pull it down, so we can just focus on the people in the course. All right. So now going back to SARS, one thing that's important to know is the 30-day limit. All right. So you want to make sure you know about this 30-day time limit. So the 30-day time limit means that once a case is deemed suspicious, or it's recommended as being suspicious, the bank has 30 days to file a SAR. Okay. Now, that's very important for multiple reasons, because that 30-day time clock, once it starts going, the bank wants to make sure that they're on top of it and they're able to draft the narrative, fill out the SAR form, and submit it to FinCEN. So oftentimes what a bank may do is have the investigators, if something seems like it could be escalated for a SAR, to be drafted as, or to be recommended as, further investigation required. What that does is it gives the bank, they're not under that 30-day time limit, because it doesn't have the word suspicious in there. So as a result, now they can go in, they can spend more time, and especially if they have a backlog, it's something that they want to be aware of. So that's something that you want to be cognizant of, to see if the bank, if those are the policies they have, to make sure that that you're not overstepping or messing anything up. All right. So that is pretty much a lot for the SAR. There's still other things that I can cover. A lot of it is in the course, so we can't give you everything because it would take a while. And I just kind of really wanted to make sure you get a really good footing as to what a SAR is, when it's required, things to look out for. So now that we have that, the next video is going to be on cars, not the car you drive, but a continuing activity report. All right. So something good to know. You have any questions, comments below in the comment box, as well as make sure that you're, subscribing to the channel and signing up for the email list. All right. Look forward to talking to you guys in the next video. Have a great day.